must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Diaspora Dispatches, and being a Monday, I do have so much for you, dating back to what has been happening over the weekend. And so let me bring you up to date with the latest from the continent. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in today. We shall start with Sudan, where Sudan's Transitional Authority has reached an agreement with protesters who had blocked two crucial pipelines in the east and disrupted the flow of oil in and out of the country. The demonstrators from the Beja community have been protesting for weeks, blocking the pipeline transporting oil exports from landlocked South Sudan and another that handles crude imports into Sudan. They have been angry about being left out of a peace deal the government signed last year with a number of rebel groups as part of the long-term transition from military to civilian rule in the country. A delegation from the Transitional Authority on Sunday held talks with the protesters. It was followed by a tentative agreement with Beja community elders to allow the passage of oil exports through Bashaya Port, the main terminal close to Port Sudan, from where exports from South Sudan are shipped. The Beja elders have said they will need a week after the tentative agreement. No further discussions to further discuss the matter. I apologize. And then we head over to Nigeria, where more students who had been kidnapped in northern Nigeria have been released after payment of ransom. Some 10 students were released on Sunday, according to a local Christian association, leaving only 11. The head of the association, Joseph Hayab, said they were working on the release of the remaining students. This is the fourth group of students to be released by the kidnappers. A total of 110 students have either been released or have escaped so far. Some 121 students from Bethel High School students were kidnapped on the 5th of July in Kaduna State in northern Nigeria. 3 of the kidnappers were arrested and police paraded them last week. School kidnappings have been on the rise in Nigeria, with abductors demanding millions of the Nigerian currency in ransom payments. We go to Mali, and Mali's interim Prime Minister Chaguel Maïga has accused France of abandoning the nation mid-flight after the European country decided to reduce its troops, thereby up to a half. In June, France announced that the counter-terrorism mission it leads in the Sahel, Operation Barkhane, will see its number fall from 5,100 to 2,500, between 2,500 to 3,000 over the next few months. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Saturday, Mr. Maïga criticized the unilateral announcement, adding that it leads Mali to explore paths and means to better ensure the country's security autonomously or with other partners. This has been interpreted as a reference to Mali reportedly asking Russian mercenaries to train its military and boost national security, despite recent reports of abuses by Russian mercenaries elsewhere in the continent, most recently in the Central African Republic. We go to Uganda, and a Ugandan government official has been sentenced to 40 years in prison in order to pay $5.4 million in compensation. The court had Godfrey Kazinda, an accountant in the Prime Minister's office, had looted money from a program funded by foreign donors to assist communities in the north of the country who had been devastated by the Lord's Resistance Army. The total amount he was accused of embezzling was $26.4 million. AFP News Agency reports 4 luxury cars and a 20-bedroom mansion belonging to Kazinda were also reportedly seized by the government. And then we head over to Rwanda, and President Paul Kagame is visiting Mozambique, where 1,000 of his country's troops are helping local soldiers fight Islamist extremists. The BBC reported that President Kagame offered to keep Rwandan forces in Cabo Delgado if they will be needed as internally displaced people are settled. Rwandan forces have made significant advances, capturing the jihadist main headquarters in the port city of Masimboa de Praia last month. They say they have liberated 90% of the province from the militants. Members of the Southern African Democratic Development Community, that is SADC, have also sent their troops. We head over to Burkina Faso. More than 70 people have been arrested in Burkinabe in connection with money laundering and the finding of armed groups. The detainees are accused of being involved with fuel trafficking in areas where jihadist groups are active. Investigators said the traffickers work at night and moving hundreds of thousands of liters of fuel across the country. Nearly 1.5 million people have been displaced by intensifying Islamist violence in Burkina Faso. And then we go to South Africa, where Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, launched its manifesto on Sunday. The party, which often describes itself as an anti-imperialist and leftist movement, did not hold back in emphasizing the party's capabilities of picking up the slack of what they call the current incapable local government. Thousands of people dressed in red and black came to hear Julius Malema, who is the party leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, as the party launched its manifesto ahead of the local elections that are slated for 1st of November. The party's manifesto is based on 7 pillars for economic freedom. And the party vowed to create jobs for the youth instead of giving tenders to the connected few. The party's power launches its official campaign on Monday, even if the head of state Cyril Ramaphosa, who is also the head of ANC, has been taking public trips for the last 10 days, dressed in green and yellow. And then we head back to Rwanda, and Theoneste Bagosora, who was nicknamed the Himmler of Rwanda, or the Colonel of the Apocalypse, after reaching the high cycles of power thanks to a brilliant military career, and who became the mastermind of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, is dead. Colonel died on Saturday at the age of 80 in Mali, where he was serving his sentence for genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. Initially sentenced to life imprisonment in 2008 by the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, based in Arusha, Tanzania, he had his sentence reduced to 35 years in prison on appeal in 2011. The man, who in 1994 held the position of Director of Cabinet at the Rwandan Ministry of Defense, has always denied the role he is believed to have played in the genocide that left 800,000 dead in 100 days, according to the United Nations, mainly from the Tutsi community. And then we head over to Tunisia, where hundreds of protesters took to the street of Tunisian capital on Sunday, demanding the country's constitution be respected and parliament reinstated. In July, President Said decided to sack the country's prime minister, suspended parliament, whose powers are now frozen, and assume executive authority, saying it was because of a national emergency. His critics called it a coup. Some of those who participated in the protests were lawmakers from the Islamist party Ennahda. And then we go to Sudan, and Sudan's military said on Sunday it had repelled an attempted insertion by Ethiopian forces in the border area between the two countries. The Ethiopian forces had been forced to retreat from the Barakit area, a military statement said, without giving further details. The head of Sudan's military general Abdel Fattah al-Burhan told reporters the incident took place on Saturday. He said it showed how the military was protecting the country in the wake of a coup attempt in Khartoum last week. And that is the latest from the continent of Africa. I think the situation in Sudan should worry us, because the last we were having this conversation, it appears the military side of the transitional government, they're not very keen in relinquishing powers. And from that attempted coup that we saw happen last week, where, Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok came up and said there seems to be some elements in the military that are keen in sabotaging the transition to civilian rule, that even as the country readies itself for an election sometimes next year. And of course, the army is meant to be giving up part of their powers come November this year. So it's not too far away, even as the country organizes for an election. Remember, after Omar al-Bashir was ousted from office in April, in August, the same year in 2019, the transitional government was formed, and starting from August of 2019, they were given 3 years of transitional period to organize and to make a new constitution from Sudan, because even the constitution was suspended. And so the 3 years are quickly coming to an end, and this has sent jitters to the military side, and I think they've tasted power. And, power is good. It comes with a few packs that we see some leadership in this continent enjoy way too much. And so they don't want to relinquish power. They don't want to give up the ruling of Sudan to the hands of a civilian. The former President Omar al-Bashir was a military army himself, and through his 30 years of ruling, he led Sudan as a military state, basically the way decisions he made and how he led Sudan. So mostly military had a bigger voice and a bigger stake when it came to matters of national interest. And so that is how they're used to doing things. So now having a complete civilian take over the leadership of Sudan, I think this is something they haven't fathomed very well. And I think right now they're worried about their future and what that will mean for them, even as the country prepares. And ICC, I think, said it's starting to set shop in Sudan, even as they prepare to start investigating the atrocities that happened in Darfur in 2013. And so that caused the ICC to offer a warrant of arrest for a former President Omar al-Bashir. So that also is another issue. And I think I keep reminding you here every day, so I'll not get too much into the details. If you watch this show, that we talk about this a lot. So I will not bother you with too much details today of that story. Okay? And so now Ethiopian forces, I don't know, apparently they attempted an incursion into, Sudan, and the military in Sudan apparently, repelled them. I don't know what this means, because we know Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt right now are in a war, not a war, physical war, but they have been in a disagreement over the Grand Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia, that Ethiopia did its second filling this year. I think it started last year and then this year, and they're about to start using to power its country. This Grand Renaissance Dam will go a long way in solving the problem of power in Ethiopia by lighting up to perhaps providing up to 60% of the energy needed there in Ethiopia. So it's a big deal for the country and a great investment. And Egypt has been having a problem with this dam, and that has been a source of a bitter disagreement since 10 years when that dam was started being built. So now it's over 70% done. I think it's nearly done right now, and so it will start working in the next few months. So Egypt is not not happy about that, and Egypt, together with Sudan, we've seen how they've teamed up together, and they've trying to raise a lot of concerns on what Ethiopia is doing. And there has been talks that have been set up time and time again with different mediators, trying to see how they can strike a balance and mediate through this quagmire. But all of these meetings or these mediation efforts have been fruitless. And so that is another one aspect of that. But also there's something else. Sudan and Ethiopia have been having a border row for quite a while now. And Ethiopia is accusing Sudan of, invading its side of the country and hosting some rebels from Ethiopia and aiding some rebels. And we know Sudan hosts a huge chunk of the Tigrayan, refugees who took off after I think now it's 11 months of conflict that has, plagued the northern part of Ethiopia. So, of course, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, that is something that he's not been pleased. He sees as if Sudan is hosting these rebels over there. And so there's a lot between these two countries, and then now you add the issue with the dam. So there's much to do. And so apparently some Ethiopian forces, like you would think they don't have enough things to do back at home. Ethiopia currently is in a complete disarray and chaotic, since we see happening. We've seen protests, pro-governments, we've seen a lot of things happen in Ethiopia. And of course, the war that has really caused a bit of instability there, and that has caused, since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power, there's been a lot of disquiet. But TPLF, that he has now proscribed as a terrorist group, was in power for about 27 years. So all of a sudden now this party and these people that has been leading this country, now you have proscribed them as a terrorist group, man. You're looking for trouble. So TPLF, ran off Ethiopia army in from the Tigray region and got them out of the headquarters of Tigray, which is Mekelle. That is the capital of Tigray. So it's a lot going on. So when you hear Ethiopia now wants to invade Sudan, like, do you not have enough things, enough problems, enough security issues that you need to address in your own country in Ethiopia? But apparently they have more than enough army officials who now others wants to be used to invade Sudan. So I think Ethiopia is just piling problem after problem to itself, and the U.S. threatened to sanction certain individuals. We've not seen that happen. They just threatened, but they did not take any action. And this goes to speak about the double standards you see from these Western, powers. When it comes to certain countries, especially in Africa or third world countries, how they react. There are others where they're very soft. As you've seen, a country like the U.S., despite the human rights abuses we've seen happen, despite the genocide that has been happening in Ethiopia, the U.S. has not done much. And it's usually very vocal in such matters. It has not done much to try to hold the leadership of Ethiopia accountable for what is happening in that country. And so they threatened that they will put sanctions, but that was just that. It was just threats. So hopefully the government of President Joe Biden will go further and just, pronounce those sanctions and not just threaten, okay, because atrocity is happening in Ethiopia and the world is watching. As the world is watching, the atrocities happening across the rest of the world, and another atrocity is happening in South Sudan. And I was shocked last week to learn of that report that was presented to the United Nations Security Council about the killings that have been rampant, especially in the Tambura County, where there's have been killed, thousands displaced, and to learn, according from that report, that government forces are involved in fueling that conflict, that broke my heart, and that made me a very sad African. So hopefully, and President Salva Kiir has been very conveniently quiet. He's not responded to that report. So does that mean there's truth to, what was being said or what was presented to the United Nations Security Council? Because if you've not responded, then our assumption is, silence is also a response, and maybe the report is true. So I would love, for the leadership of South Sudan, especially President Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, whose forces have been accused so much to be, participating in these killings and all this Accuse that has been happening, to come up and address this matter, because this is such a serious matter that I would think by the time that report was issued last week, by now they would have made a statement, they would have addressed these issues, they would have come and given the government position, but they failed to do that. So we are left to believe that report and the content of it that was presented to the United Nations Security Council is nothing but the truth. But if that be the case, then I think the people of South Sudan who were hoping to get a reprieve and perhaps go back to their homes very soon, that might just be a mirage. You will continue languishing in the refugee camps. Women will continue being raped with the soldiers, because part of the report says that, women and children are being raped and men killed and all that, and that was being carried out by government forces that is supposed to be, protecting its people. And President Salva Kiir, this information is out and you're still quiet. That is sad. Okay, so anyway, South Africa is gearing up to go to its local election in November, and of course Malema wants, if possible, to lock out and see from getting any seats. So he's been campaigning and he presented his manifesto based on 7 pillars of economic freedom. Malema is okay, all right. A few times he tells the truth, but I think it's how he says it that is really can repel you from anything good that comes from his mouth. But he's quite radical and very aggressive in his delivery, and maybe that is just his personality. So we'll see how that will work out. But we know elections in South Africa has never been a matter of life and death. Matter of fact, I think I love the democracy and how it works. Pretty much different from a lot of scenarios we see when elections are being carried out in other parts in Africa, where you are almost assured there will be post-election violence, there will be election violence while people are voting. There'll be all manners of chaos. But in South Africa, I think it's quite the democracy there and how they do the elections. I think it's quite interesting. And I've always urged, I think, our political players in this country, even as we seek to want to amend the constitution and all these things. And of course, we've noted that electoral violence is a problem, and we're trying to find ways to address it. Maybe we should study the electoral model, the democracy model of South Africa, and how the elections happen and how they elect their leaders, where it's not a do or die. It is the party that has the majority, which is ANC right now, and the leader of the party. The president is not elected directly by the people. So the leaders who the people have elected are they choose. So the party leader becomes the president. Okay, so that is how the democracy in South Africa happens. And you've seen they'll go and vote. People go cast their votes and go back to work, and the next day nobody's protesting, nobody's claiming nothing. Things are just back to normal. So I when that country has so much, it still needs to work on. But I think their mode of democracy and how they do their elections, it is something that we could study and see. Okay, could we borrow that instead of going to benchmark outside the continent? Sometimes, like us here. Sorry, now we're in chaos because we've borrowed the US Constitution, we've borrowed the British Constitution that we've been working with since even before independence. And now we've merged these two together, and we know they are quite apart in terms of how they do their thing. So it has become a burden because it does not quite fit in the local reality. But if we just go to another African country and see, okay, this seems to be working, so what can we borrow? Because this seems to be works well for this country. So is it something that we could borrow and see a few things we could get from that and, better our own electoral process instead of going outside the country and coming up with things that don't even fit, don't even fit the local realities when it comes to other things that we're trying. Even as we try to have a better democracy in Kenya and indeed across other countries in Africa. So anyway, thank you so much. So anyway, some students have been released there in Nigeria, so that is a good thing. Well, kidnapping has become a very lucrative business in Nigeria, and a lot of these kidnappings happens in President Buhari's home state of Kaduna. He's given excuses as to why he thinks these people do such things, and so that means that his government is not planning to take any action or to effectively address this matter. So that is that. The last time he was having a meeting with the security apparatus heads in Nigeria, I was hoping something will come out, or a plan, or at least we'll see some changes in how the country is handling its security. That has not been the case. So I think Nigerians will just wait until Buhari serves his last term, which I think is ending next year, before they go on to another election. Nigerians, they usually have a 4-year, one term. So the president can go for 2 terms, and each term is 4 years, so 8 years. 8 years of mess, 8 years of insecurity, 8 years of Boko Haram expansion, 8 years of bandits raining mayhem, 8 years of name it, chaos in the Sahel region. So when the United Nations Security Secretary General Antonio Guterres asked President Buhari after, they had a meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The United Nations General Assembly took place in New York. at the 76th, meeting last week. And so Guterres tasked Buhari to go back and try to restore peace and social political stability in West African states, I think through ECOWAS. And I thought, what? Does Guterres watch the news, and is he aware of what has been happening in Nigeria? President Buhari is not even aware of what is happening in his own country. President Buhari, even as much as he's a bit just slightly aware, he does not even have a solution. His government does not even know how to respond to the issues affecting the people of Nigeria. That is in Nigeria, and now you want him to try and bring stability in West African states. Now that's a stretch. Okay, let's see. Probably like President Salva Kiir, who is unable to have a peace in his own country and to be in a meaningful mediation process that will propel South Sudan forward. He's been unable to do that, but on the flip side, he's been able to, mediate through successfully between the government of Sudan and the rebels and these other holdout groups, and sort of there's been a semblance of progress being made in Sudan, but in his own country he's been unable to do that. So maybe that will be the case with President Buhari. So I'll be seeking to see how President Buhari will take on that challenge that was placed on him by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. I thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.